Seizing Valor, where we discover God's path for manhood one conversation at a time. I'm Zack.
And I'm Joe.
And unfortunately, we do not have Josh here today.
That's right. He's doing the dad.
Doing the dad thing. Duty calls. Vocation comes first. And we totally respect that.
Mm-hmm.
And we're here because we're lonely.
Yes,
got people and we've got no one. Oh, just kidding. That's not. We've got people.
We
Well,
have each other.
People.
We have Well, today's going to be our topic. Our topic is on friendship, and it's very appropriate for today.
Yeah, because we still got friends. Everybody can have friends.
Yes.
And Josh is still totally our friend, and Josh still totally has friends too. But he's got a friend that's even closer than a friend, you know what I mean? Yeah. So he's got, anyway, I'm rambling now. But yeah, friendship. We're talking about friendship with people, friendship and how that impacts our lives and our friendship with God. Yeah, and the importance of companionship, even if it's not, the traditional, everyone thinks companionship of like marriage is the only companionship, but that is not true. We as human beings have all sorts of companionship, and today we talk about friendship.
Excellent.
Yeah. So how was your week, Joe? I mean, it was a little less than a week now since we are recording on a different day than normal.
Yeah, but still stuff inevitably happens. Just finished up summer school. And with that being said, I had a very grand old time. I had to tie up a couple loose ends before I go on vacation in a couple of days to Utah, which will be really, really fun. Yeah, other than that, play guitar for worship. It was same old week, I think. Yeah, nothing much to really delve deep on. Worship guitar was great. I got to do more of that, and it stinks. Well, it doesn't stink. Worshiping our God is awesome. But I got to practice today and tomorrow before going off on my flight, because I won't be able to practice with the team in a couple days from now, and it'll kind of just be going up cold on next Sunday, which I'm not exactly. I'm very excited about, but I'm definitely nervous over. It's all the preparation.
You going by yourself to Utah?
To Utah? Of course I am.
Oh, what's the plan? Joe is the master. For those who don't know, Joe has become the master of the vacationing, the individual vacation.
Well, by this point in time, once this episode airs, I'll already be back where I'm at. By this point in time, I would have gone to Bryce Canyon, probably Zion as well. On my final day, I might go to Vegas, or I might skip that altogether and just go to maybe Grand Canyon. That's not terribly far off for the last day. I've got my whole
maybe Grand Canyon. Yeah, it might be worth a look.
Well, I'm not. Yeah, it's nothing that special.
Just a big hole in the ground. I don't see what the big deal is.
Well, I don't know if I want to, because I would want to go inside of it, but it's like 20 degrees warmer once you delve deep.
Did not know that.
Yeah, because it's so much more compressed.
What was the inspiration for Utah? I know, because you've been to like England.
It's a similar excursion. Yeah, it's a similar excursion than that my sister and my brother-in-law had for their first year wedding anniversary.
So
I wanted to do that same trip. So
he had trip envy. So he just decided to go for it, which is great. I mean, I think a lot of people need to realize that you don't need to wait to have like other people or people in your life for like to go off and do adventurous things.
Yeah.
Like things can be just as fun by yourself. Like go out and do it. Like even the simple things like going to the movies by yourself. Like you don't need people to do stuff.
It amazes me when people say they haven't gone to the movies on their own. I don't know, like whenever you do feel, which is not the reason I go, but whenever you do feel kind of lonely or something like that, and then you go to the movies, you're experiencing the same thing. It's a sensory deprivation room, and you're all experiencing like the emotions together. Yeah, it always amazes me when people like say to me when I tell them where I'm going, like London, for example. I went to London a couple of years ago, which was exhilarating, terrifying. to go on my own. But people say, like, I've never gone on vacation on my own. And I'm like, really? Like, it's just something you always gotta do at least once, you know?
Yeah. part of the thing is you can't feel exhilarated without there being a little bit of fear.
Hmm.
But the other idea is too, I know one, I don't remember who said it to me recently, but this idea is that you can't wait until you get to a certain point in your life to live your life, or you'll never live your life. So like
Yeah.
you can't be just like, I'm not going on these vacations until I have a significant other, or I'm married, or I have a family, or this, that, and the other thing, or you're never gonna have anything done. And more often than not, by the time you have like a family and stuff, oh, your life becomes so
Will you
busy
have
you
the
can't do
time?
some of these
No.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
So singleness is a vocation. Singleness is a state in life that we all have. So definitely it's something that everyone needs to take advantage of, not like roll in the drudgery of like, oh, I'm single and stuff. Be like, what can I do while I'm single?
Yeah.
So that I can't do once I'm not single. So that when I'm not saying that you should be single forever either, unless you're called to that. But like, yeah. So just live the life that you're in, and don't wait till you're in a certain state of being in order to live life. So
Well said.
yeah. Yeah.
How
But
about
that's not
you?
even our topic. We're talking about topics and we're not even yeah, we're still in the banter. Um cool. Anything else?
No, that's a planning week for Joe.
Oh.
Next week is the doing.
The doing week.
We were
Well,
all doing something.
we're always doing something.
Yeah,
Okay.
tell me
So
about you.
for my week really hasn't been that adventurous either. More like just kind of coming down from being on vacation. I mean,
Mhm.
actually, anyone who's looking at the YouTube video, it actually looks like I'm wearing like a vacation-y type of outfit right now. So you would have thought that this would be the week I came back from vacation, or this would be the day I came back from vacation, but it's not. Kind of this week of just kind of adjusting to being back. You always have that post-vacation, almost like post-vacation stress. Like you always have like pre-vacation stress where you're like, oh, which is what you're kind of in right now. It's just like, oh, I got to make sure everything's set and ready and got to
Yeah.
make sure I do all the work I need to do. And then you have like the post-vacation stress if you're like, oh, I'm back and now I got all this stuff I have to handle. I was kind of, in blissful ignorance for a little while. And now, life is coming back at me all at one time.
Yeah.
And for me, I guess this is more or less a good enough time to make this announcement. But so the biggest thing is that I have decided that I will not be attending law school. It was something I had to think about and decide for a really long time. It wasn't just a flip of the switch, obviously,
Yeah.
because this has been like 4 months in the making. But I did a lot of discerning. I did a lot of thinking, reflecting, talking with God, and just it kind of came down to it is that every time I thought about doing it or thought about like going and doing it, I got really anxious and on edge and not necessarily scared as much as just like it's something didn't sit well with me
Sure.
about doing it. And there was a lot of things I think that go back, and I'm not going to go into the whole thing, but part of me thinks I was doing it for the wrong reasons or getting into it just to do something and not really doing it because I wanted to. And then I kind of stayed in it because it was like I felt like I had to, or like to prove myself or something. I had to do this really hard thing just for the sake of doing it, just to say that I could, which is not the right reason to do anything. And just I kept thinking about like after I'm done with law school, do I really want to be a lawyer the rest of my life? And like I kept coming back to the answer of no, it's not really what I wanted to do. So did I really want to spend the time, that's 3 whole years, the money, the effort, and just reading all these books about like going to law school and stuff and how stressful it is and how anxiety reducing it is and how difficult it is, which is great if like it's something you really want to do. I encourage you, like if you're thinking about law school and you really really want to be a lawyer, don't get discouraged by that. Like I mean, like if you really want it, then you'll still really want it. Like at the end, like the law school is just the hurdle to get over if you still really want to be the lawyer. But I don't think I wanted what was on the other side of the hurdle. That's the thing. It's like really hard to get yourself to do the hard thing if you don't want what's on the other side. But if you do want what's on the other side, like you have all the more reason to endure it. So I really don't think that the carrot was the carrot that I wanted. Like I think I was just looking for something different. I think I was looking to make a change, and I think
and it's a pretty extreme thing, like
yeah, and
going
it was a
from
really
swim
extreme.
coach to law school.
Yeah, and like here to Florida, it was like a lot of, and I just, yeah, it was a lot of change, and like I think once again, I was going into it for the wrong reasons. Who knows? Maybe one day I'll circle back to it and maybe it is what I'm supposed to do. I just think in this point in my life right now, I'm realizing that it's not, I wasn't going into it for the right reasons. I didn't really want the end goal, or more than a means to an end. Like, once again, wanting to get out and do something different was not the right end for the means. It wasn't like the right reason. So now I've kind of hit the reset button. And I am now currently deciding what it is I want to do. I'm looking for jobs, trying to get a way to make money in the meantime. So first got to get the first job just to have a job so that I can make some money, so I can take some time and think about it and meditate and like, what do I really want to do without feeling that pressure? Like, I feel like for some reason I was putting pressure on myself to like change my life and within a certain period of time, like, and I think I was felt that too much. So if I can just like get a job and just kind of relax and be like, okay, I'm in this space. I'm like, and now I have time. I don't have a time limit. Like, I don't have to have things figured out by a certain time. I can just kind of breathe. All right, do this job and then figure out what I really want to do with my life in the meantime. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. It's just back to the resumes and the cover letters and the job searching and everything, which has been stressful. Like, I felt it like physically and mentally, and like it's in itself is a stressor, having to return back to that space. But I'm trusting that the Lord's got a plan for me, and and I'm even struggling now. I mean, it's too late. I told everyone I'm not coming, so my spot's been rescinded and all that stuff. So it's too late now. And so it's also dealing with the stress of like, did I make the right decision? Was I supposed to do that? Like, was I supposed to go? Was I supposed to stay? But now I have to tell myself that it's done. Regardless of whether I was supposed to do it or not, it's done. The door is closed. I can't reopen it. Like, it's been done. And that even if I was supposed to or not supposed to do it, like, God's going to take me with where I am right now, and not where I was supposed to be, and kind of guide me in a direction now. It's like, okay, it doesn't matter whether or not you were supposed to be a lawyer or not. This is where we are right now, and and I will guide you from where you are and not from where you were supposed to be. And
feels a little freeing, doesn't it? A little bit.
Yeah. Once again, there's always that. It's with any decision. You always feel like there's some freedom, but always some anxiety that comes with making a decision, because you always worry, even after making it. Sometimes it's like, did you make the right one?
Yeah.
But it took a lot of courage, because I feel like, once again, I felt like I had to keep going, because like I had told all these people that I was going, that like I felt there was a part of me that was telling me that like, well, if you don't go, it's because you're a coward, or like it's because you're scared, or having to dig past that to see, was that the case? Was I not going because I was scared that law school was going to be hard, or was I going just because I didn't want to be a lawyer? So I kind of had to dig through that, and had to own the decision. So it was a difficult process. But yeah, so now here I am, back to different anxiety, the the ambiguity of like, what now? But yeah, I mean, I think going down the path, I don't think was a bad thing, of like experimenting and trying and thinking, and it made me, tackle a lot of things, think a lot about a lot of things, put me in certain places that I needed to be mentally, physically, that I can always talk about at a different time. But yeah, so now here I am. So now pressing the reset button and being like, all right, God, I don't know if I did the right thing or not, but what do we do? What now?
Yeah. So, what's your plan for me? Yeah, it's interesting that you brought up, was it something that I was just fearful of doing, or was it just something to do, which is the reason I applied for law school? And I don't think that's a problem that's often talked about, because I feel like a lot of people just do things or go into a certain job just for the sake of doing it, maybe because other people are doing it, or because maybe will feel a little bit more respectable, if that's the right word, our own impressions about ourselves. But after a while, like that anxiety that you were talking about, and also the praying and reflecting on it, it's just the purpose that I was brought on this world for. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And for anybody who's listening, like, keep in mind too, like, I know a lot of people have said this to me, and like they said they're proud of me, because it's like, you decided to stop instead of keep going, because that was like the expectation. Like, if you haven't discerned that this is the path for you, and what you're experiencing in the moment is just, the the fear of the unknown or fear of jumping into the next thing, like that's fine. Like if you like, I know this is right for me, I'm just scared, like keep going. Or it's like it's hard but I still know it's right for me, keep going. But if there's something like you really not sure if it's what you're supposed to be doing, like if you're not sure if it's really the path for you, you're experiencing some serious doubts, then like don't be afraid to press the brakes. I mean, don't want to go to like the most extreme cases, but like even on your wedding day, like if you feel like, oh my gosh, this really might not be a good idea, like I really might not actually want to marry this person, like don't be afraid to pump the brakes, because once you, it's better you pump the brakes then than to have to go talk about divorce and things like that. So like once again, or if you feel like or joining the military or like something, like any of those big decisions, like if you are experiencing some serious like I'm not sure this is what I'm supposed to do, then feel free to pump the brakes a little bit, because it's better to figure it out, because you could still come to the conclusion of like, yes, this is what I'm supposed to do, and go and keep going forward. But it's better to pump the brakes and figure it out than figure out after the fact that it's not what you're supposed to do, and then now it's a lot harder to get out of it. So yeah, so don't be afraid to slow down, or to, once again, hit the pause button for a second and figure things out. Even like, once again, even at the last minute, it's better to do it then than to do it afterwards and try to get out of certain things,
Right.
So anyway, yeah, so that's been my life, just trying to deal now with this decision that has been made, and also of making it public, which is just the step towards that, of like telling everyone. I was like, okay, no, I'm not doing this thing that I told you I was doing.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's where I'm at.
So our weeks sometimes before this, and I'm sure we'll have more of these types of weeks before this, is kind of like a waiting week, awaiting for what's to come. I'm awaiting on you, God. And we experience a lot of these waiting periods, and a lot of it kind of just feels like, oh, I'm waiting for those next like big things, those next blessings that God's gonna. But this right now, waiting period for anybody who is experiencing or listening to this right now, a waiting period is actually one of the biggest blessings that we could ever have, because it allows that type of refreshment time,
reflection. Yeah. So, and it's funny because it's like we're in two different types of waiting. You're in a waiting of like, what's coming, and when it's going to come. So like, on Tuesday you're leaving and that you're going to experience this thing. That's one kind of waiting. And then I'm here in the waiting of like, I don't know what I'm waiting for and how long I'm waiting for it. Mm-hmm. But there's blessing in both of those things. As you said, there's blessing in both those types of things, of like reflection. Like God wants us to wait in different times for different reasons. A lot of the things in life that are the best things we have to wait for. Example, like, when a woman's having a baby, or when a couple's having a baby and the woman is actually, carrying the baby, it doesn't come out immediately. You have to wait 9 months. But if you don't wait the whole 9 months, the baby might not be healthy, or you don't wait until the point where it's, supposed to come. This idea is you have to wait the whole 9 months. You can't just be like, all right, bring that baby out right now, month number 1. Let's press fast forward and let's get this going.
Let's turn on the oven temperature just a little bit more, so instead it'll be 6 months instead of 9 months.
Yeah. So you have to wait.
It needs to cook.
You have to wait the predestined amount that God has delivered, because it has a purpose. Because obviously, like in pregnancy, like the purpose is that the baby's developing. Your purpose is that, the flight was at a specific time, and that you have to make sure that that's all coordinated.
Don't jinx it. Don't jinx it.
Yeah, you're right. Okay. Yeah. No, Joe's flight's never going to take off. No, I'm just kidding. I'm anti-jinxing it. No, we're just going to stop talking about it. But for me, it might be just like God maybe wants me to reflect on a bunch of stuff first before I move on, or tackle some things in the brain that, maybe I haven't been looking at. And so every season has its purpose, and seasons of waiting, even though we don't see them, they're their purpose. And there's a way to be a good waiter. And this sounds like it's going to turn into a future podcast at some point. So we will not talk too much more in depth about that. So stay tuned. Maybe we'll have a podcast on waiting in the future.
Yeah. I like that.
But for now,
for every idea that we have, another 2 falls. It's like a mythic beast or something like that. The Hydra.
The Hydra.
Except it's a good example. But
it's not the Hail Hydra. For every good topic we conquer, 2 more will take its place. So yeah, it's so on that, let's take a pivot, and we'll go from talking about topics to go into our topic,
Right.
which today is
Friendship.
friendship.
So
The
for anybody
ship that all the
listening,
friends are on.
we need our captain, Josh.
Do Captain Josh, we miss you. You are the captain of our friendship on the stormy seas of life.
He's our dad.
He's a
Dad?
He's our dad. We're all dads in some way. I'm a dad via jokes. The dad jokes, like the ship. The
Are you even a
friendship.
dad? Are you even a dad if you don't joke?
You don't have the dad jokes? I don't know. But anyway.
Well,
So,
dad should be friends.
friendship.
So friendship. Anybody listening? Have you ever had a friend that you were just so unbelievably excited to see? You know, so excited to meet up with this person, especially if it's been a hot minute since you've actually seen them or called them or something like that. I'll tell you, like, what the feeling that I feel is that I get butterflies in my stomach, and I'm sure, like, because you're excited. But all of these
Joe's
things,
a really good friend.
hopefully, all the things that you could talk about, or catch up on any updates. Oh, we got a dog. The dog is good. Oh, I moved to blah 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 place. It's awesome. Like, I want you to picture that friend right now, like that image in your mind, even if it's just an amalgamation of a bunch of them. That being said, I want you to focus now on a past friendship or current friendship, as as some cases may be, where you are or felt uneasy. The feeling is something as close to anxiety as can get. I can almost imagine myself right now as I'm saying these words. I Red Rover grip something. I feel like short breath. And I don't even realize that I'm doing that. Those types of relationships or friendships are all around us. They're happening in our back door. It happens all the time. Happening to our neighbor. Have you ever had to cut any of this off? Any of those types of friendships off before? I know I have. Within the last couple of years, I have had to. I cut off at least one coming to mind. Had to cut off one, and there's a reason for it. I had gotten to know this friend for roughly a year, give or take. And there had come to the point where I'd actually helped this guy out with his job, as a matter of fact, getting his feet on the ground with it. And it's serious stuff because, he asked for it. When somebody asks for something, I take it as a serious thing, and it helped make his job easier. I believe I was successful in helping him out. So on to the actual heart of the matter. In a public setting, this guy, this friend was with me and a group of other people that we all knew together, good group. We were all going to go on vacation. We all at least had plans to, with each other. And when I left that group to go off and run some errand or whatever, this quote unquote friend was talking with an individual who was actually spreading rumors, some lies about me, some smearing. And so this friend heard this individual and didn't dispute. Didn't contradict him. This friend knew that this was a lie. How do I know that it was a lie? Because the friend was there, at the actual true event, if that makes sense. The friend didn't say, hey, that's a lie. That's something that matters. Your friends are ambassadors in the world. Your friends are ambassadors because they relate to you. And if people know you to be a friend of someone, your reputation is kind of tied to that in the physical world, Mm-hmm. Your friends are some of the most important people in your life. And if they don't stick up for you in the face of adversity, or in some cases when you're not around, you need to seriously look at yourself, and also, the relationships you're tied to,
Yeah, friendship is super important, as we kind of touched on in the beginning of this episode. Friendship is one of one of the important relationships in your life. I mean, you have stuff like your relationship with your parents, relationship with your siblings, relationship with your family, relationship with your spouse, but relationship with your friends is also really important. In the Bible, there's plenty of spaces that they talk about the importance of friendship, both in the Old and the New Testament. A lot of the wisdom books like Proverbs have, verses about friendship and how important friendship is and how refreshing friendship is. And it's how important it is to keep good company. Same in the letters of Paul, talks about the same thing. Like good company is good for the soul. Bad company can be bad for the soul. So like be wary of what kind of friends you keep with you. I remember hearing one thing. I think Father Mike Schmitz said it, but someone else had said it. So he like took it from somebody else, but like a psychologist or something like that. But the idea is that our character is heavily influenced by the 5 people that we spend the most time with, I think is what it said. So like the 5 people you spend the most time with are the ones who kind of influence your character a little bit, or they shape your character, whether you realize it or not. So like who you spend your time with matters, and who you let in close matters. And this is not to say, I don't think that we necessarily need to be super selective about who we are friendly with, or like who we are nice to, or who we are like welcome. So there's like different levels of friendship, there's like the best friends, like the close friends, like the acquaintances, like friends of friends, colleagues. Like I feel like there's a lot of different levels of knowing someone, or like friendship. There's probably in other languages there's probably like better descriptors, like probably like in Greek they have the multiple words for love, like this idea that there's friendship, and there's different multiple levels that we just have a hard time describing in English, but like different relationships that I think are important. But do you remember, I think in Big House we had like, did you ever go on any of the retreats and we did the circle of friends, or did we do that on Search, like the idea of the circle of friends? Like there's like almost like a bullseye with different like rings.
I never went to that. Are you talking about the new student retreat at college?
I think it was done at multiple retreats, but I know as part of like the Christian living thing, the Big House thing we would do on our retreats, we would do an exercise called the circle of friends. So it almost looks like a bullseye. So there's one circle in the middle, and then there's like rings that kind of like go around on the outside. So it looks like a bullseye. So the idea is that the circle in the middle is God. So he has to be the center of your life. And then each, like the rings, like going outwards is like your layers of friends. Like, so obviously your closest, the first ring out from God is like your closest relationships. Like you could, family, if you're really close with your family, your siblings, like your best friends, like the ones who know a lot about you, the ones you feel comfortable, like really being open with. And then you kind of have your next step, which is like friends that maybe are like friends that are part of your friend group, but maybe you're not like spending one-on-one time with them, or like really intimate time with them. And then maybe like the next circle is like friends of friends, and then the next circle is like people but you're not really friends, or like acquaintances, as you said. So this idea is that there's different levels of friendship. And so what we're saying, like when we talk about how, as you're talking about, like this idea of needing to like cut ties and stuff like that, or like maybe not, is this idea that you don't have to be best friends with everyone. You don't have to be super close with everyone you consider a friend. Like you don't have to be super intimate with everyone. First of all, it's going to emotionally exhaust you. Like to be intimate with like every single person that you know is exhausting. And it makes the intimacy with the other people a little more diluted, I guess. So like this idea is that you don't have to be intimate with everyone. And just because you don't want to be close friends with someone anymore, or you don't want to be close friends in general, doesn't mean you can't still be friendly, or like you don't have to be mean to them because like, or like completely act like they don't exist or something like that. Like just because you don't want to be best intimate friends with them. So yeah, thoughts on that? This idea is that levels of friendship matter.
Yeah, I think the lines are definitely blurred, especially when you are around people of different values. Like obviously you have people that you should be called to make friends with around your community and church. But if you're around like a lot of people that are almost 180, 180 degrees, so almost polar opposite of that, it could definitely shift your perspective for one thing. But if you don't know how to, keep a distance from those values, not keep a distance from those people, I don't think you should ever do that. I think that's because one of the greatest examples of a friend is Jesus, of course, and he hung out with sinners all the time. We are sinners, right?
Mhm.
That's true, and not standing on like this high horse. We are called to be lights towards all.
Yeah. But that doesn't necessarily mean you need to open the floodgates to like every person you notice. So
Yeah.
like this idea is, you're right. I think we do have to have this balance, because we're all sinners, first of all. So this idea of like, I don't hang out with sinners would be very hypocritical.
Right.
So this idea is that you can't, even someone of great faith, like you can't not hang out with or not associate with unfaithful people, or people who are in need, like, or people maybe you don't agree with. You can't completely like cut yourself off from like, I don't even want to associate with those people, because you don't spread the word that way. Like you don't spread the word by seeming standoffish or selective or any of that stuff. So you have to open yourself up to those people. But at the same time, they don't necessarily need to be your closest intimate friends ever. Like you don't need to be like, so that's why it's really important, I think, talking about these 5 closest people, is that yes, you really should be friends with people who maybe don't share your views. You should be friends with people that you might not agree with, people that maybe haven't found God yet. But at the same time, you need to have a really good close knit group of people that agree with, like, that are in the same space as you, like, because you need that empowerment, so to speak. Because if you go off by yourself, and you don't have to take the other friends with you, it's just if you don't have those friends to come back to. But if like you go off by yourself and you have no support system of any kind, and you just hang out with the wrong kind of people like all the time,
Yeah.
as strong as we all are with God, especially on our side, like sometimes it's just,
there's a chip away. Yeah, there's a chip away.
That they might influence you more than you influence them.
Yeah.
And you have to be careful of that. There's a difference also between being friends with someone and agreeing with them. Like you don't have to agree with someone to be your friend. Like I have plenty of friends I don't agree with a lot of stuff about, but they're still my friends. Like you don't have to be perfectly the same to be friends with people. Like that's just the way it is. And I think that's lost in our culture right now, because I think everyone thinks that if you disagree with someone, you're supposed to hate them.
Yeah.
Yep. So that's what I'm saying, is that you always do have to have like a strong backbone of, like, for example, if you're someone of faith, you should have a strong group of faith friends.
Yes.
At the same time as also having friends that maybe are not as faithful, like that's okay to have. But like it's a lot better if you have those friends of faith that you can go back to and feel strengthened by, and like have a good influence to make you strong enough to go out, so that when you hang out with those other people, you can be more of a light, of God, and be a little bit stronger and not worry as much that things are gonna go the other way. So that makes sense.
That
like
does. Yeah, I think having both, of course, are good reinforcers.
But I mean, throughout a lot of my life, I've had groups of both friends. I mean, a lot of people, like, for example, in swimming that I have met, might not be like faith-oriented people, but they're still really good friends of mine. Swimming brought us together. But at the same time, I've pretty much always had a group of friends that's, faith-oriented in the background. And I feel like I'm able to better be with both groups, the fact that I have both groups, I suppose. It's just kind of made life easier. But I have felt more comfortable. The times in my life where I had less faith friends like at my disposal, or I had less ones that within arm's reach, made hanging out with people not of faith harder, more difficult.
Oh yeah.
But like when I had a group of faith friends, like a really strong one, like I felt so much better and even more comfortable in my group of non-faith friends. Like I felt like the friendships were bettered on both ends when I had both. So like
that's a really good point. Yeah. I can relate.
But you did mention that there are some times where as hard as it might be to accept, sometimes the best thing for both you and someone else is to cut ties, to cut ties completely. And, if someone it sounds heartless, but if someone is dragging you down, like if someone is really like causing you not to live, if someone else is keeping you from becoming the person God made you to be, then you need to cut ties with that person. And probably more than likely, it's for their benefit as well as yours. Because more than likely, if you are not becoming the person that God meant you to be with this person, more than likely they're not becoming the person they're meant to be either.
Yeah.
So it might sound selfish, but once again, if it's really like leading you down a path that's like not like once again, what God meant you to do, then you both need to go your separate ways, because you're obviously both dragging each other down, maybe. So so it's, I think, really important to recognize that too, and that it's not heartless in a sense, because once again, realize more than likely, if you're not, no one else becomes the person God made them to be in spite of you. So it's like, it's not like they can't climb on top of you and use you as a vault to like get to where God wants you to. That's not how God works.
Yeah.
Like, so they can't sabotage you to get where they need to go. So that's not how that works. You can't do that. Putting someone else down will never bring you up in God's eyes. So,
yeah, extortion and sabotage, that's not God.
So you're both kind of just going down that way. So no matter who's doing it, whether who's the victim and who's the perpetrator, you're both kind of going downward. So like, this idea is that cutting ties with that person will benefit them too. Yeah. So whether you realize it or not, you might not see it, but you got to kind of put it in God's hands, and you got to let him take care of it, because once again, letting them extort you is not helping them. Mm-hmm. So so that sometimes that's hard, but that's like kind of the darker side of like, when friendship and friendship changes too. I think maybe this is a segue, but friendship changes throughout life. And I think people also need to see that, like, friendship with an individual person changes, what friendship looks like overall, like, kind of changes. Like, for example, we had lots of friends in college because we had lots of friends around us. That's just the way it is.
Live together.
Yeah, you live with a lot of other young people, a lot of people who share your views, a lot of faith friends, athletic friends, activity friends, class friends. But then I'm not sure about you, but I think it's hard sometimes when you just get out of college, because you went from having a lot of people your age around, friends, to like not as many, because you all go your separate ways.
Right.
And it's easy to maintain friendships when you're in close proximity. Because seeing someone for even a few moments is worth more than sometimes like a 1,000 text messages, just like seeing someone every day.
Yeah.
But it's really hard. You can have like 100 friends in college pretty easily, because you're probably going to run into people at like this club, this class, that class. But then you get out into the real world, like, you can't text 100 people every day. Like, you can't, or even every week. You can't call those people. You can't go to visit all those people.
That's a huge ordeal. Those calls can rack up.
Yeah, and it's hard, but you got to accept that friendship does change, and it does kind of reveal, the quality of the friendship. So like, obviously you'll stay in contact with like the really close people, like you'll like the really close people, and then others, it'll be like, oh, when you see them again, it'll be like really nice, and you'll have a conversation like it hasn't been any time, but maybe you don't necessarily spend like, but it's only when you happen to run into each other. Or people that you realize that you were really just friends of friends, and they were part of the group, you were part of the group, but you weren't really like really close, and that's okay, that there's nothing wrong with that. So I guess, I don't know, college for me was like where the circle of friends really kind of came to a realization of like, and it's okay to only have a few really close friends. That's fine. Actually, it's better that way. It's better not to have 50 bajillion really close friends. The only person who has that is Jesus.
You don't want to be popular. You don't want to be popular, Zach.
I think that's sometimes that's the problem. When you want to please everyone and you want to be really close friends with everyone, it really stresses you out, because
it's exhausting.
Humans, because we as humans are just like, we all demand attention. First of all, if you're a friend, you need to be able to give attention, and like if you have so many people demanding attention of you, you're gonna go nuts, and lots of anxiety. And number two, like, the more friends you have, the more conflicting opinions they have. So to try to be a peacemaker is going to be like a lot harder.
You kind of become one. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, you're going to get pulled in a lot of different ways, and that's going to be stressful. And so
that's a good point. Yeah.
Friendship is complicated, and it changes and it evolves. And especially if any of you people here, as we were kind of describing, you're a soon to be college graduate, don't be afraid of that changing. It's completely and totally normal. So don't feel like you're the worst person ever if your friend group doesn't stay exactly the same as it was all throughout college.
You kind of
It
get a little
happens.
bit of a taste of that in high school too. For me, high school was not as good as college.
Same.
Because you start to distance yourself from that group of friends, and it's being replaced by another group of friends. So all's well and good, but kind of just like gives you a little, like, just think about it in those terms, especially if you're leaving college. Like, you've experienced this already. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
So,
The weird thing though about it is though, at least in high school, there's like a place to go back to, like everyone like kind of came from the same town. A decent amount of you will go back to the same town sometimes. And so you always end up kind of running into your high school friends.
but do you
But
really want
college
those?
friends,
Do you really want those, like, excursions at Stop and Shop, and then you see them, and it's like, oh,
oh, hey. Well, once again, it's this idea it's a revelation as to what kind of friends you were. It's like if you still know them, or if you get to really talking to them, it's like, wow, we really were friends. But if it's one of those things, it's like, oh, hey, and then you just kind of like, then it's like, oh, well, we were just kind of acquaintances and we were just friends of friends, and that's okay. But
that's one of those circles.
in college, it's more weird because you all came from separate places to this one place, and then you all went back to separate places. So there's not as much of a common meeting ground,
That's true.
So that's why I say college is. I don't mean to depress anybody in college or anyone going into college or anyone going out of college, but it seems sometimes cruel that college brings all these people together only to split them back apart.
Yeah, that's
is
true.
But that's not supposed to be depressing, because it's better to have loved and lost than to have never loved at all. But anyway, this idea is, yeah, of course, you obviously still stay friends with a crap ton of people. I mean, like me and Joe, we still buddies.
Oh yeah, and we're not even in the same general area.
Not even the same state. And Josh too, same, completely different state and completely different area. But college brought us together, and friendship keeps us together. So yeah, this idea is that friendship is a complicated thing with many different levels, but that it's important to have friends, and it's important. Jesus had friends. Notice that Jesus had friends. The apostles were his followers, but they were also his friends. And he even had different levels of friends, even within the apostles, like Peter, James, and John. They were like the big three. And they were like the closest of the close. So like there was like them, and then there was the 12, and then there was like the 72 disciples, and then there was everyone else that decided to kind of like follow along. And that during tough times, that kind of like showed like how quality of friends they were. Like, there was the one verse in the Bible where like it's right after he starts talking about eat my flesh, drink my blood, and you'll have eternal life. A lot of people left, and the 12 apostles were the only ones who were kind of still there. And it's like, where else would we go? Like, like that's the idea, is that friendship was really close, and like, when it was tested, they stayed the course. When it was the rest, kind of, but then even when it was tested further, and then everyone ran away, and John was the only one who's still there. So like, Jesus loves everyone. We're everyone's best. We're best friends with everyone's best friends with Jesus. And that friendship is important. But oh man, I'm bouncing all around now. One other thing I want to put in there is that yes, Jesus is our very perfect best friend, and that Jesus is the one who will never let us down. But we also have to recognize that our real human friends that are fallen like we are going to let us down at some point. No matter how close they are, no matter how good a friendship we are with that, whether they mean to do it or not, they're going to let you down in some way. Like, it's just going to happen, and you have to accept that. It's they're human too, and you just got to accept that, like that they're not God, they're not Jesus, and things happen. And more often than not, your truly best friends, they didn't mean to let you down.
Oh, of course.
They just did, because they're imperfect. And you also have to accept you will let your friends down at some point as well. Like, it's just the way the world works. Inevitably, you live long enough, you're going to let your friends down. Essentially everyone is going to let their friends down. So like, and it's okay. You just say sorry, you pick yourself back up. That's at the time when you're like, the friendship's tested, can you say I'm sorry and move on, and realize that you guys aren't like the be all end all for each other. Like, you're not going to be like your wife, even your wife and your friends and everything. They're not Jesus. They're not a replacement Jesus. They're not your savior. Jesus is your savior. So like, but they're supposed to guide you to Jesus.
That's why, especially if we hang out in the world too much and don't really go back to God that often, that world, we put our faith and all of ourselves into it, and it's going to disappoint us. That's why, we are second compared to our Father who will never disappoint.
Yeah. And actually, it's kind of circling back to what I was talking about, how like, how if you have a really good group of faith friends, it makes it easier to hang out with the non-faith friends. Well, kind of even going one step beyond that, like the more you hang out with God and the more closer friendship you have with God, the easier it's going to be with the faith friends even, and then also the other non-faith friends, because even though they'll let you down because they're imperfect human beings, you're like, that's okay because you're not God and I have God. Like, God's not going to let me down. Even if you are, it's okay because, I have God and you have God and we all have God, and it's okay.
You need to diversify your portfolio of friends, and the one stock that will not disappoint in these economic times is God.
God's always in the bull market. God's always going up. God's never a bear. For all those who are, that's finance talk. For anyone who doesn't know, this is bull market's good, bear market's bad. Don't ask me why. It just is.
Hey,
anyway,
it's 3 letters, G-O-D.
Yeah. So there you go. Jesus' ultimate friend. And of course, I feel like we always say this. It's like, oh, there's so much more we can talk about with this topic, but that's just kind of the way the cookie crumbles. There'll always be more to say. But yeah, so friendship, super important. Find a good group of friends that's going to make you into the person that God made you to be, and let them be your close friends. Spend time with the people who make you better. Try your best to be someone that will make other people better. It's okay to have other friends. It's okay to have multiple levels of friends. Do be friends with people who don't necessarily agree with you all the time, but that doesn't necessarily mean you need to be the closest friends. Make sure God's always your number one friend, and so on and so forth, and be okay with friendship changing and evolving, and that eventually, there will be tests, there will be failures, but that's okay as long as you're rooted in God. Yeah. Boom. All right. So is that it?
Yeah, that's it.
Are we good? Are we tapped out for today?
We are tapped out.
All right. So, all right, I'll give our little promo, and then you can send us off in prayer, my friend.
Absolutely.
So you all who are listening, you are our friends. Maybe not our super closest, intimate, personal friends, because we really don't know you, or most of you. Maybe we know some of you, but we don't really know most of you. But you are still our friends, because it's okay to have different levels of friends. And if you want to spread this friendship, if you want more sailors upon this friendship, then you can help us by sharing this podcast with those who you think might benefit from it. We are currently on YouTube and Spotify. Follow us on social media platforms. YouTube, I think we're getting into the shorts area there, Joe, correctly? We're going to start doing some YouTube shorts. And we are also on Instagram. We have been at Seizing Valor. And then strengthen your friendship with us by commenting or emailing us. If you really want to get into a deeper conversation about any of these topics, usually email's like the best idea, more than the comments. But yeah, so if you really want to talk more intimately about anything, send us an email at seizingvalor@gmail.com. And prayer intentions as well. So if you have anything you would like us to pray for, please send it our way. And I think that's it. Spread the word and embrace the word. I don't know. Anyway, send us off with some words, Joe.
Happily. Jesus, thank you for today. Thank you for this conversation. And thank you for this illuminating discussion about friendships. Ultimately, you, God, are our friend. We thank you, Father God, that you are searching through our hearts and illuminating each of our relationships, making them better. You help us move these healthy relationships, and you help us to build community with people who are for us and not against us, just as they are for you and not against you. And Lord God, I pray for Josh, keep him safe, keep our friends and family safe. Help us, myself and Zach, and anybody listening right now, be a light in our individual communities, because we are the church, and that you would send us off into this world that can hurt, that can batter us if we're not careful. But ultimately, you are the friend that we do go back to. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. All right. Peace out, my friends, listeners, and watchers, as well as to you, my good friend Joe. We'll
Love
see
you
you
guys.
all next week.
Next week.